Hey guys, it's Lorelei or Maddie, and I'm back again today with hashtag murder trending, chapter 5. Let's get right into it. Niles laughed nervously. Gris, don't scare the new girl. You want to give her false hope? Griselda said, arching an eyebrow. Make her feel like she can win? Her eyes shifted to Dee. Newsflash, you can't. Dee expected Griselda's bravo to mask an underlying fear, but her eyes were hard, her lips firmly set, and all Dee detected was a no-nonsense, "This is how it is, princess," attitude that matched the business-like prompting Griselda had done before entering the camera shot. Between Niles's cheerfulness and Griselda's casual indifference, Dee was relatively sure they were both nuts. Niles pulled out a chair, and the metal legs scraped against the tile floor with a nails-on-a-chalkboard screech. She did manage to kill the Slayer. Griselda stiffened, clearly agitated. Beginner's luck. You try it. A new voice chimed in from behind the counter. If that's beginner's luck, I want some. Dee turned instantly on guard, even though the female voice sounded friendly, and neither Niles nor Griselda appeared alarmed by her presence. A short Asian woman with freckled cheeks carried 2 large boxes from the back room, both marked Postman Enterprises, Inc. She wore an abundance of light blue eyeshadow and matching blue lipstick as she passed beneath an overhead light. Dee noticed that her black shoulder-length hair was streaked with blue as well. Niles jumped to his feet, ever the gentleman, and seemed about to offer his assistance when she shook her head. I'm good. She slid the boxes onto the counter beside the ice cream freezer, pushing aside a napkin dispenser and a framed sign that read, "Have you ice-creamed today?" First rule of Alcatraz, don't offer to help anyone. Niles sank back into his chair. I've never been good with rules. Then you're lucky you have immunity, the newcomer replied curtly. She thrust her hand over the counter. I'm Blair, your boss. Dee started realizing the introduction was meant for her. She stood up and took tentative steps towards Blair's outstretched hand. Was this a test? A rule she had yet to learn? Was she supposed to take the offer of a handshake or stare away? I'm not going to slit your throat, Blair said, the bluntness in her tone matching the sharp angle of her bobbed hair. Sorry, Dee clasped hands with Blair, who gave her a fierce squeeze before letting go. Dee. Short for Daphne or Dulcinea? Niles asked, still trying. Dee grimaced. No. Her name wasn't short for anything. Not anymore. Blair hoisted herself up on the counter, knocking the "Have you ice-creamed today?" sign flat. Well, Dee, not short for Daphne or Dulcina. Welcome to Alcatraz 2.0. Thanks? Princess needs to learn about sarcasm, Griselda said, rolling her eyes. And you need to learn about manners. Go, Dee, girl boss. You'll get used to it, Gris, Blair said. Her bark is worse than her bite. Oh, you'll get used to Gris, Blair said. Her bark is worse than her bite. Dee seriously doubted that. Blair straddled the counter, one leg on each side. She wore black leggings that hugged her stout calves and disappeared into a pair of gray Uggs and a leather zip front tunic with a drawstring waist. I'll give you the same lecture I give everyone when they arrive. Griselda pulled out the chair opposite Niles and sank into it, crossing one long leg over the other. I need a drink. There are 2 sets of rules, Blair began. Theirs and ours. Theirs are simple. Work, get paid, eat. So I've heard, Dee muttered. You have to show up to your job every day, and funds are added to your island debit card accordingly. Dee fished a key ring out of the pocket of his jeans and handed it to her. It contained a single shiny silver house key and a plastic card, branded with the Postman Enterprises Inc.'s signature logo. She flipped it over and saw her name and photo printed on the back. It was her mugshot from when she was arrested. Wonderful. It works at all the businesses on Main Street, Niles explained, and you can use it as a library card. So I can catch up on some light reading while running for my life. Classy. Do not lose it, Blair said emphatically. You won't get another one. Good to know. And you have to stay alone in your own house each night, Blair continued, or they'll zero out your account. That rule was pretty much unnecessary for Dee. No way in hell would she be inviting a convicted killer over for a late-night coffee. Oh, and you can't kill other inmates, Niles added, chuckling to himself, no matter how much you want to. Why not? Not that Dee was contemplating murder, but who cared how they died? They were all condemned anyway. The postman doesn't want any carnage he can't control, Blair said, with a shrug. Griselda pulled out a tube of lip gloss and reapplied. Bad for ratings. Dee had a hard time buying that. I've seen those prison documentaries on TV. Inmates try to kill each other all the freaking time. Not on Alcatraz 2.0, Niles said grimly. Blair laughed. You sound like you've never watched the app or something. Oh, I totally watch it all the time, Dee lied. People who didn't enjoy The Postman were considered anti-American or plain crazy, so it was easier to play along. Hold up. Blair slid off the shoulder, her eyes locked on Dee's. You've never seen it. No, I have. It wasn't a lie. She had been forced to watch it in her prison cell after the arrest. They didn't need to know that she avoided the app like her life depended on it before that. How could she explain it? I've spent 6 days trapped with a psychopath. I don't need to relive that through an app on my phone. Thanks. I spent 6 days trapped with a psychopath. I don't need to relive that through an app on my phone, thanks. Dee had only voluntarily shared her past with one other person, and that had ended badly. Besides, opening up to a bunch of convicted felons, co-workers or not, wasn't high on her list of things to do her first day on Alcatraz 2.0. These were not people she should trust. Blair and Niles exchanged a glance, and for a moment Dee thought they were going to press her for more information. She thrust her chin forward in defiance, preparing for the onslaught of questions, but they never came. Oh, Blair said, leaning back against the counter. Okay, well, Killing another inmate will earn you a fate worse than death. Dee thought of the murders she had seen from her holding cell and tried hard to imagine how much worse it could be. Worse than getting nuked in Hannah Ball's microwave, she asked. Worse than a full-body straight razor shave from barbaric barista. If you care about the people you love, Blair said, swallowing hard, then yes. It took a moment for the full horror of this statement to take effect. She pictured her dad trapped in one of Gassiel's torture chambers and tried to bite her lip to keep tears from welling up. Blair took a deep breath. Right. And remember, the cameras are always watching. Always watching, Dee repeated. This place got better by the minute. Then Blair smiled and her entire demeanor changed. Our rules, she continued, are more complicated, but they just might keep you alive, so pay attention. Staying alive was a good reason to pay attention. Rule number 1, Blair said, holding up her right index finger. You all ready? Wait. Dee cast a long-side glance at the nearest camera. Blair had literally just said that someone was always watching. Should she really be sharing vital survival tactics in full view of the cameras? Don't worry about them, Blair said, waving her hands at the red light. Watch this, she cleared her throat, then spoke up loud and clear. I'm going to tell the new girl how to stay alive for as long as possible. Do you want to have that on a live channel? Dee stared at the camera in amazement. Before Blair had gotten the first few words out, the red light had blimped off. She spun around and found that all 4 of the surveillance devices in the shop had gone dark. What the hell? They don't want to humanize us, Niles explained. If the fans internalize our struggle to stay alive, the ratings might go down. Seriously? Blair nodded in agreement. Read the comments feed sometime. The fans love to justify their bloodlust by reminding themselves that we're all heinous murderers and deserve what we get. Starting a conversation about how day-to-day survival is a surefire way to get a channel feed shut down. Wouldn't the postman know what we're up to? Trust me, he's still watching, Blair said with a grimace, but it's nothing he hasn't heard before. Oh, suddenly Dee's enthusiasm for survival tactics seemed foolish. What was the point if the postman and his killers already knew? Back to rule number 1, Blair said, unperturbed. I don't know. By the seemingly futility futility, that's what it is, of it all. Don't offer help to anyone. Half the time, it's a trap, and the other half, it's a trap. So staying alive means that you have to be an asshole? Griselda made much more sense. Made more sense. Rule number 2, don't be out after sundown. Already covered that one, Niles cried, excited like a child who got the correct answer on a pop quiz. See, I can learn rules. Good boy. Blair reached over and pulled a red licorice rope from the jar and tossed it to him. This one's on me. Can you lie down and roll over too? Griselda sneered. 3. Don't sleep at night. Your ship goes up between 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. So that's when most of the executions happen. Blair held up her index finger again and wagged it back and forth. And just because you're locked in your house doesn't mean you're safe. Dee doubted any place was safe on the island. 4, 5, and 6. Blair seemed to be enjoying herself, her voice buoyant as she recited a nursery rhyme. Make sure the seals on your food haven't been tampered with. If you feel like someone's watching you, they are. And this one's important. When chased, run outside. Outside? Dee asked. It sounded counterintuitive. There was no place to hide outdoors, and didn't the wide open streets and storefronts leave more places for executioners to pop out and grab her? Outdoor murders get fewer spikes, Niall said. If you manage to get outside, there's a 60-ish% chance that the killer will give up and try again another time. Dee arched an eyebrow. 60-ish? Not exactly foolproof. There's a 90% chance, Griselda chimed in, that Niles makes up his statistics. He pursed his lips. It's not as if we have the scientific apparatus around here to make an actual controlled study of survival rates based on interior and exterior. I was joking, Niles, Griselda said, and then she added in an excellent fake British accent, don't get your knockers in a twist. Well, at least her snark wasn't solely focused on Dee. Ah, yes, he said, clearly not appreciating the joke. Hilarious. And last, Blair said, redirecting the conversation back to the rules, don't draw attention to yourself in a negative light. The more the fans hate you, the more desperately the postman's killers will want to up their spikes by taking you out. Too late, Griselda said. Oh, Blair's eyes shifted up to the screen on the wall. Right, well, don't worry too much about that. Dee exhaled slowly. Blair was trying to be nice, which Dee appreciated, but she could see the truth written all over her new boss's face. Griselda was right. Dee wasn't going to last a week on Alcatraz 2.0. Suddenly, Dee was exhausted. Her arms and legs were heavy, and her eyes burned. She knew she wasn't supposed to sleep at night, but there was no way she was going to be able to keep her eyes open for much longer. Whatever, at this point, who cared? Maybe it would be better if she was taken out quickly in her sleep. Life on Alcatraz 2.0 sounded like a nightmare, and with 20 million spikes and a Cinderella Survivor hashtag, she practically had a sign around her neck that said, "Hey, kill me next." Why prolong the agony? It wasn't as if she was able to escape, and she doubted her dad and stepmom were actively fighting for an appeal. Even if it was possible to get one without diplomatic connections, her parents probably thought she was guilty like everyone else did. They were probably just trying to wipe her from their memories. So much for Dee's crazy idea that she could stay alive long enough to find Monica's real killer. What had she been thinking? If former inmates like a trained martial artist, a mob assassin, and a professional bodyguard couldn't survive on Alcatraz 2.0, how the hell could a 17-year-old whose greatest achievements in life thus far included publishing a poem in her local newspaper and managing to not get recognized as that girl who got kidnapped for the last 6 years. Dee's face must have reflected her growing sense of despair, because Blair's carefully penciled eyebrows drew sharply together. Look, it's not that bad, okay? Griselda snorted. Who doesn't enjoy living in constant fear for your life? Ignore her, Blair said, waving her off. Griselda rocketed to her feet. Here's my advice, Princess. Don't get used to the fact that you're going to die soon. Oh, here's my advice, Princess. Get used to the fact that you're going to die soon. It's going to be violent and painful and terrifying. No one is going to help you, and no one is going to remember you when you're gone. Then she spun on her heel and marched into the back room. I'll check on her, Niles said, hurrying after Griselda. She shouldn't be alone. He looked anxious, and Dee wondered if they had a thing going on. Stop it! Why was she even speculating about Niles' love life? That was a distraction she couldn't afford. She needed to stay alive, and in order to do that, the only person she could give a shit about was herself. Follow the rules and you'll be okay, Blair said. Then she dropped her voice into just above a whisper. There are people who have been surviving here longer than you realize. And that's the end of chapter 5. Bye-bye.